Yeah, what Randy's referring to is that when I share this on stage about how to embrace the fact that we've all been given gifts and talents that we may not understand why they're important or why they are our blessing to the world to share with the world. And so I talk about how the dentist found out I had a big mouth, and I do.
Oh my
Okay, so that's a pretty good mouth, right? And
a big
the
mouth, yeah.
dentist was like, "Wow, you have a big mouth," and he said, "I can use both hands," And I was like, I mean, I was 5 years old when he noticed that I had a big mouth, and he pulled the tool out of my mouth, and my lips stayed up like that. If you can see that with the lighting, and he said, "How do you do that?" I said, "I don't know," and he said, "Well, if you can do that with that side, you should be able to do the other side," and I could. I could control my lips in such a way that he said, "Hey, that's your gift." And I was like, "This is my gift." I looked to heaven and said, "Thank you." I didn't know this is a gift. So I went and I shared that with people at school, and everyone laughed. And the next thing I knew, I thought, well, if they laughed at that, what if I could catch a wave like the ocean? Oh yeah. So I found out how to do that. And then I thought,
Okay.
what about my eyebrows? Oh yeah. Then what about the bottom lip? I could do that and that at the same time and talk at the same time. And so I found out as a kid that if I did these things, it made people laugh. And a lot of people actually said, "That's pretty ugly," but then they were laughing. And so I teach that, it's our promise to either hide from the world or to promise to share with the world that which makes us uniquely who we are. That is our signature moves. And unfortunately, so many people hide their gifts because it's ugly or it's weird or it's bizarre or it's a lip wave. Like, who does that? Well,
You
I
do.
do, and I hope it creates permission for everyone else to think to themselves, what gift am I holding back? What is my
Mm.
promise to the world that I can share?
Welcome to the Kindness Factor podcast, sharing life changing personal stories of the transformational impact of deep kindness. Hosted by
Dr. Elia, the happiness doctor.
and Randy McNeely, the kindness giver. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome to another episode of the Kindness Factor podcast. I'm Randy McNeely, known as the Kindness Giver. I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Dr. Elia Gourgouris, the happiness doctor, and he's coming to us from Paris, France. And welcome, Elia.
Oui. I'm excited. I wouldn't have missed this for the world. I know we're on vacation, but this is really important because we have a guest that's going to be lights out. You just wait. So let's get going.
Well, we are totally thrilled to have the amazing Jason Hewlett join us in our podcast today. And let me just tell you a little bit about Jason and why we're so excited to have him. He's a Hall of Fame keynote speaker. He's an author of an amazing book, The Promise to the One. He's also an award-winning entertainer. He's got an amazing singing voice. He does amazing imitations and things like that. And he's also a coach and a consultant. His book, Promise to the One, debuted at #1 in the spiritual self-help on Amazon back in 2020. And his dry bar comedy special, Father Time, is a YouTube viral hit. He lives in South Jordan, Utah, loves to ski. He loves to travel in an RV with his family, his beautiful wife, Tammy, and amazing 4 children. And here's another great thing about Jason. He's the president of a Utah-founded company called Cardio Miracle, which is a nitric oxide and D3 supplement that helps oxygenate the blood vessels and assists with cardiovascular and heart disease challenges. And there's a whole litany of other things that I could say about Jason, but we don't need to. We're going to let him take it away here. We're going to ask some questions, and you'll get to know him as we carry on a great conversation. Thank you, Jason, for joining us today. We so appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. This is wonderful, and I appreciate the good doctor zooming all the way in from the other side of the world. So thank you both.
You're welcome.
Well, this is called the Kindness Factor podcast, and the purpose of this show is to share each week inspiring stories that our guests have, or inspiring experiences, I should say, that our guests have had with the transformative power of kindness. And Jason, we know that you're no exception to that. Is there a kindness hero that created an experience in your life that you would like to share with our audience, a story that you'd like to share, something that was transformative, that touched your heart, that still impacts you today?
I love that question because there have been so many. I could probably point the quickest to a man named Chris Poulos. In fact, I wrote about him in my book. He was in his late 70s when we first met, and I was in my early 20s. So essentially, Yoda and Luke Skywalker type of situation. He had already been in showbiz and he had managed other people, but now retired. He and I met through another friend who was another hero. And this man sat with me on his couch while I pontificated through what I wanted to do with my career right at the very beginning. It was just an idea of wanting to be a speaker and an entertainer and to make people laugh and to write books, and I didn't know how to go about it. And I remember telling him, I said, I don't have enough money to pay you to be my manager and to help me. And he said, oh no, I'm not going to take any of your money. He said, I'm your mentor and I want to help you through this. And I'm going to show you everything you need to do, from how to get your first gigs, to writing a contract, to getting the promo materials out there, to building a business. I was blown away. And I thought there must be a catch, even though we were working and he was teaching me, there was no catch. We just became best friends. And eventually, obviously, as he hit his 90s, he passed away. And I love to honor Chris Poulos because he was the greatest kindness factor of my entire world and life. And I still do what I can to not only help and be kind to those that reach out, but also to do as much mentoring as I can in the midst of still trying to make a living. And so it's been an interesting balancing act to try to do what Chris Poulos did for me, for others. And luckily, his influence continues to spread because exponentially I've tried to help other people too. And I think that's the power of kindness, is one person does one thing and that's the ripple effect. And obviously happiness came from that for my life as well. And so I'm so thankful for Chris Poulos. That would be the guy.
You know what's beautiful about that? Here we are in 2024, and his name is at the very forefront of your consciousness. Like, this is probably the hardest question we're going to ask you, because most of us have had so many significant, I would say, kindness transformative experiences. So choosing one is not necessarily easy. I love the fact that you had, man, this is the guy. And, it sounds too good to be true. Like, what is the catch? What is he getting out of it? And what he got out of it is to share his wisdom and pass it along to you. So then you, in turn, get an opportunity now, but at some point, even in your 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, hopefully, to continue to pass on your wisdom and your experience. So how has that impacted you, and how have you passed it forward, actually, really?
Yeah, that was kind of the point of him doing it for me. Was he said, when I would continually say, let me pay you something. I mean, now I'm seeing success. Now I've just signed a big contract. Now I'm making a living. And he would say, don't give me any money. I want you to just continue to do this for other people. He said, the joy that you're bringing me by allowing me to share what I'm good at and I can help you with is payment enough. Your friendship, your recognizing me from the stage, making me feel like I'm still relevant and important, those things were really beneficial in his life. And I remember speaking with his kids who were even older than I, and they said, that relationship that he had with you was one of the most important of his world. It kept him alive for a couple of years, when he was not well, just knowing that he was going to see me on a stage or that we were going to converse. I mean, that kind of thing is really, it blows your mind, because obviously he also had plenty of other wonderful reasons to live, his grandchildren and lots of great success and other things himself, and a wonderful wife. And so when I had the chance to speak at his funeral and share some of the ways that he was, an influence to me, it's really such a wonderful blessing to now be able to say, I'm mentoring you, or I'm helping you because Chris Poulos did this for me. And I can share that story with a lot of people because I do a lot of mentoring myself. In fact, I used to call it Mentor Monday, and people would sit in that chair right behind me, and they would come to my office, and I would mentor. It got a little bit out of hand, to be candid with, in my wife's opinion, because I would have someone come every 2 hours for an entire Monday, and I did that for 10 years. And I never
Oh my
charged one
gosh.
person. And finally, my wife said, I think it's time to just pick a couple of people to mentor, and then maybe if people want coaching, that you should make some money with that. So she helped me see that you can potentially die by charity if you're not making enough money in the first place. And I'm grateful for her mentoring as well in that. So, but that was me trying to give back.
Is your mentor, was he Greek? Because Polish sounds like a Greek name.
That's right. Greek. Yes, sir.
All right. All right, we got to say for the Greeks. There you go.
Great, it's amazing because, I've known Elia for about 20 years, it's been over 20 years now. And every time we have a conversation or we get online and talk about something, it seems like I'm meeting another wonderful Greek person that always happy and cheerful and are learning about something. It just says something for my Greek friends. they're good people. Jason, it's amazing to me as I sit and listen to you talk about the impact that Chris Poulos had in your life and how that has inspired you to turn around and want to have impact in other people's lives. I can think of someone, that's a mutual friend of ours whose life has had a powerful impact on me and is now impacting other people. That she shared a story with me a few weeks ago when we had a chance to interview the amazing Jody Orgill Brown on this podcast. And tell me a little bit about tell our audience a little bit about your relationship with Jody, how you met her, and why you're so willing to promote her and share her with people.
Well, Jody is one of the great speakers of the world, and she's somebody who had a brain tumor that was causing some facial paralysis. So if you see her on camera, she has a very physical situation that she is absolutely this beautiful woman who stands in full confidence and competence and delivers incredible keynotes. And she's also become a great consultant and so forth. And she's a writer. She's a great author. And so I'm very proud of her. I remember she tells the story that I had, I was at an event that she saw me there, and she came and snuck over and sat next to me because I guess that I had a little bit of fame in that situation. And so she came and sat next to me and we started to chat. And the next thing I knew, I was just captivated by her. I mean, she's a powerful spirit and force to be reckoned with. And so it has been such a blessing to get to know somebody like that, who goes into the world, who stands in their confidence, who shares great things. And yeah, she's been for me somebody that's become really like, the phrase is one of my favorites because it was coined, I believe, by Dave Randall, who wrote The Freak Factor. And he says, it's not mentoring because you're friends, so it's friend-touring.
I've never heard that.
I love that, and I think it was Dave Randall who coined that. But yeah, with Jody, I mean, I'm so thankful for a friend like that and somebody who introduced you and I, and that's what's so fun about getting the connection factor going.
Well, it's amazing how things ripple out, because I met you and then you wrote an article about an amazing guy named Elias Amash. And I read the article, I commented on it, and I can't remember how it happened, but I ended up connecting with him. And literally within 5 minutes after I connected with him, I got a text message from him. And then the next day I got a phone call. And it's just amazing how that works.
Jason, I'm kind of curious, what inspired you to write a book?
Oh, heavens, I always wanted to write a book. I remember as a kid being an artist anyway, and wanting to be a writer, and eventually, I mean, I've written a couple of books, but I wouldn't really promote them as much as I would promote the most current one. So The Promise to the One actually was a book that I had tried to write in a different couple of ways and through different titles and so forth for a couple of years. And eventually I realized I had to scrap everything and start over. And so finally got that book published in 2020, which was kind of the bad year for publishing a book when your main source of income is being on stage in front of people, and your main way of selling those books is by selling it to the people in the audience.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of what was unfortunate about the book. However, what's been great about it is the fact that these were stories from my entire life, along with the stories of Chris Poulos and Coach Tony Ingle and my parents and my family life, the way that I figured out how I could do my career, and how each person in their own respective place can make and keep promises to themselves and how they can follow through with it. And so, yeah, wanting to write a book was always a desire. I believe that most people want to. Here's what I had to do. I sat in that chair for months trying to figure out, how can I get through this? I wanted to block out a couple of hours per day, and I would always either just go out and mow the lawn, or I would do everything which Stephen Pressfield in the War of Art, he calls it resistance. You do everything other than write the book, So one day I said to my family, I said, I've only written the introduction 25,000 times. I need to now finally write it. So I actually got in our motorhome and I drove up to the mountains, and I said to my family, I'm not coming back till the book is finished. And so I wrote the book in 3 days, and it was 50,000 words that came to me over those 3 days of not really sleeping. I was just writing. It was a wonderful divine download, is what we would call it. And I believe that it was just waiting to come out of me, but I had to give it the time and the space and the place to manifest. And so it was always there, all the stories, all the examples, and it spilled right out of me. It was a great experience.
And what a life lesson that is for everybody, our audience listening, for us three, that there's so much truth inside of us. And I love the divine downloads. It's one of those things that I call it an absolute. There are very few absolutes in life, but those divine downloads, every time I've listened to them and acted on them, it's always worked out. Always. It has always worked out.
Hello, I'm Randy McNeely, co-host of the Kindness Factor podcast and co-creator of the Kindness Factor Human Interest series. Thank you so much for listening. We sincerely appreciate you. So here's the question for you. Do the guests and the messages we're sharing resonate with you? If so, we'd like to invite you to join us in our efforts to spread love through kindness around the world. You can do so simply by visiting our Buzzsprout subscription page at the link listed in the description and taking out a monthly subscription. You can pay up to $10 per month. Your support will enable us to continue to deliver great content and to take our message to a much broader audience. Remember, with kindness, everybody wins. Thank you for your support.
But, not being a perfect man, sometimes you get the downloads and you kind of ignore them, and you always pay the price until you're ready to do the work. And it's beautiful when you're in alignment, because those 3 days you're clearly channeling. And I wrote a book. It's kind of funny because we're in the same category. Mine was a #1 bestseller, 7 Paths to Lasting Happiness, again, for self-help, not spiritual self-help, but self-help in general. But it's inside of us. It exists. And sometimes we have to get out of the way and allow it to just literally flow out. It just flows. I know Randy wrote a book about kindness, and it flowed out of him. The day he decided, he said, I think I'm going to write a book about kindness. And before you know it, he was done. And I'm like, what? Like, that's how quickly it happens when we're in alignment, and how important that is. Well
said. That's beautiful. And yeah, that thing just came as quickly as you can even fathom. And most people that have heard that story have either thought, well, you must not have done much research, or you must not, it must not be that good of a book if you wrote it that quickly. And I think, well, think about evolution in and of itself. It's always a cataclysmic moment. It's the platonic plates smashing together and a mountain appears. I mean, that's kind of what it was for me. It was the volcano eruption. It was something beautiful and perfect that needed to come out, and it was just the right time. And so but I love writing. In fact, I write a blog every week, and I haven't missed for a decade. And that's a consistent practice, very hard. But I love to write. Probably my favorite thing to do in all of my business and all of my creativity is to write.
How can our audience actually get a hold of your blog?
Well, yeah, the blog is, let's see, I I think we need to get something figured out on the website, which is
Okay.
being recreated. But yeah, if you just go to jasonhewlett.com/blog, that's where the blog is right now.
Yeah.
And then to get on the newsletter is a little trickier. You have to see me in person on stage. So, but they do send out on LinkedIn, which is where Randy and I connect as well in a lot of ways. So
Yeah.
yeah, in terms of LinkedIn, that goes out every Wednesday. So
Yeah, and I get it every week. And I just have to say to our audience, I can vouch that Jason Hewlett's book is fantastic. It's fantastic. It's well worth the read. It's worth the time that you take to read it. It's got great insights, inspiring stories, stories that are totally relatable. I sat down and was reading Jason's book, and I just like, wow, I've been there, had somebody help me this way. Oh, I've been in that situation. It's totally relatable. It's an amazing book, and I highly recommend it. I would recommend it to anybody. It doesn't it's like 200 and something pages, Jason. It's between 200 and 300 pages, and it's an easy read. He's got a great style of writing. And by the way, if you get a chance to sign up for his newsletter, do it, because every week he has something great to share. Yeah,
thank you, Randy. Let me just say this as well. I'm excited to get both of your books, and I apologize to not have gotten them before this interview, because that would have made things a little bit different. Maybe we'll have to do another interview after I've read your books, because that would change the conversation for sure. But I can tell you this much, Doctor. I did not expect it to be a spiritual self-help book. I thought it was simple, I thought it was overall a self-help book, but for whatever reason, the spiritual thing must have come out, and doesn't mean that that's religious or anything leaning. It's just it's a powerful read for a lot of people. And what I love what you said, Randy, is that, yeah, even though I'm sharing stories about myself, it's connecting to the way that it affects somebody for their own life. And so I appreciate that.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And Jason, you have such a beautiful countenance, man. And I don't think it's the lighting in your office. It emanates from within. You're a person of love. You're a very heart-centered human being. I can tell that. We just literally just met, but you lead with your heart, and the way that you love your family, the way you love your children, the way you love your fans, and the way you love the audiences, your authenticity, it's as real as it gets. And entertainment is beautiful, and it's always good to make an audience laugh, of course. But it's just as important to make them feel something deeply and profoundly. So when they leave the arena, they walk away having been changed to some degree.
That means a lot. Thank you.
I got to throw something out there about Jason, because I've gone and watched a lot of his videos. I'm a raving Jason Hewlett fan. I have become a raving Jason Hewlett fan. And one of the things that's great about it, Jason talks about his signature moves, in his book. He talks about our signature moves, the things that make us, the talents, the abilities we have that enable us to be able to reach people. And I cannot get away. We have Jason on video right now. We have to show, Jason, you have to share just a little bit. You don't have to, but I would love it if you would share just a little bit about your gift. You're saying that the gift that the dentist told you that you had, because our audience needs to see that this guy, he can do things that no human should be able to do. Let's just...
What is your gift? Now I'm curious. I don't know anything about this, so I'm with our audience. I know nothing. I don't know. This is a surprise that Randy and Jason have been cooking up. I think I don't know anything about. I don't know what they're talking about. So go ahead.
Yeah, what Randy's referring to is that when I share this on stage about how to embrace the fact that we've all been given gifts and talents that we may not understand why they're important or why they are our blessing to the world to share with the world. And so I talk about how the dentist found out I had a big mouth, and I do. Okay, so that's a pretty good mouth, right? And the dentist was like, wow, you have a big mouth. And he said, I can use both hands, and I was like, I was 5 years old when he noticed that I had a big mouth, and he pulled the tool out of my mouth and my lips stayed up like that. If you can see that with the lighting. And he said, how do you do that? I said, I don't know. And he said, well, if you can do that with that side, you should be able to do the other side. And I could control my lips in such a way that he said, hey, that's your gift. And I was like, this is my gift. I looked to heaven and said, thank you. I didn't know this is a gift. So I went and I shared that with people at school, and everyone laughed. And the next thing I knew, I thought, well, if they laughed at that, what if I could catch a wave like the ocean? Oh yeah. So I found out how to do that. And then
No
I thought,
way.
what about my eyebrows? Oh yeah. Then what about the bottom lip? I could do that and that at the same time and talk at the same time. And so I found out as a kid that if I did these things, it made people laugh. And a lot of people actually said, that's pretty ugly, but then they were laughing. And so I teach that, it's our promise to either hide from the world or to promise to share with the world that which makes us uniquely who we are. That is our signature moves. And unfortunately, so many people hide their gifts because it's ugly or it's weird or it's bizarre or it's a lip wave. Like, who does that? Well,
You
I
do.
do, and I hope it creates permission for everyone else to think to themselves, what gift am I holding back? What is my
Mm.
promise to the world that I can share?
Well, see,
That's
that's the beautiful
beautiful.
thing.
Wow.
I have to say that's a big reason why I wanted you to share that, Jason, because in his speaking, he shares his gift, which is is absolutely hilarious. But he always asks, what is your gift? He gets his audience thinking about what gift do you have that you could be sharing that might be able to impact lives, that can bring out the best in other people. Laughter is a great way to bring out, to open hearts. And when people's hearts are open, they're more susceptible to sharing, their gifts, sharing what they think is, that they could, their talents that they have with the world. So thanks, Jason. Elia, you had something to say, so go
Oh, I
ahead.
mean, that was amazing. I wish we had more time, but I know I'm looking at the clock. I'm going, oh my gosh, we're getting close to the end of our. This has to be part one. There's got to be part two in a few months.
There's got to
Jason.
be.
It has to be.
There needs to
But
be, because I need to buy your books and read them, and then we'll continue the conversation. Let's do it.
we would love that. What would be your three nuggets, three pearls of wisdom you can share with our audience as it relates to kindness and legacy? I would say also, because you have created a legacy and it continues to grow, and your sphere of influence is far and wide and so beautiful. So what would you say to our audience? Like three things that they can take away that maybe they can implement quickly.
Oh, that's a great question. I teach something called the ICM process, and so these would be the three nuggets I would recommend you consider. And ICM stands for identify, clarify, and magnify. So a lot of people don't know exactly what their promise is or what their signature moves might be. Where an artist, it's easy to know because we can imitate their voice and we know that when they sing, they sound that way. And so what makes you stand out in a sit down world is what I ask. And I say the way to
Mm.
discover that is to first identify what makes you unique. So write down as many talents, gifts, skills, and attributes that you have that makes you unique in this world, that you're good at. And then clarify it by asking other people what they see in you that makes you unique. What's interesting is that those two lists of words from your identify list and the clarify list from other people is going to really line things up for you in a big way. And then the promise to magnify those words is where it's at. And so for me, the top of my list is service. I identify that I am a kind person, and other people have clarified for me that I am somebody of service. And so I say to myself every single day, how can I spread joy? How can I serve others? How can I make sure that other people are feeling that they're always happy when they leave my presence? That's part of my promise to the world. And outside of just saying, hey, we need to be accountable, and so I'm going to have a hard conversation with you, but I'm also always going to make you feel up here rather than down here in any situation. And so part of my promise is the ICM process. And I hope that that's helpful to your listeners.
I think it's helpful to us, the two of us,
Wow.
I think a lot of people may identify somewhat, but they're not clear. So clarifying your message, they want to magnify, they may have they just don't know how to clarify it. So it's easily like you in really under 60 seconds, we get exactly what you're all about, right? And thank you for that process. I'm gonna have to think about long and hard about that. But Jason, what a pleasure! Wow.
Well, it's been a pleasure to be with you guys. And if you wanted to maybe have your people find more about the ICM process, you just go to jasonhewlett.com/ICM. And there's a little video of me explaining kind of what I just did there. But then there's also a assessment form where they can fill it out for themselves, kind of guide you along the process. And I'm telling you, when you clarify with others what you can't identify for yourself, that's where you can magnify something you never knew you had. And it's
That's when
so
the magic
beautiful because
happens.
then you can help others to do the same for themselves. And it's a nice give and take. And it helps you to live the promise. It's beautiful.
Wow, that's fantastic. Jason, if our audience wants to connect with you, wants to find you, obviously we've got jasonhewlett.com. What are some of the other channels that they can find you? You've got some YouTube channels. Tell us where people can find you.
Well, yes, if you're looking to become a better speaker, performer, person on stage, I have created a new channel that's very, very fresh, and I'm launching one video per every other day. It's crazy, actually. It's a very robust schedule. We have to film 20 videos per month at a time, and so they're all at least 10 minutes long of information and how to. That's just by Googling Jason Hewlett on performance within the YouTube channel. And so you can find that there. And then Jason Hewlett at LinkedIn is kind of where I play the most. And in terms of business connections and so forth, that's where Randy and I connected. And it's wonderful to meet the good doctor in Paris today. And so what a wonderful thing that LinkedIn has become for me.
Yeah.
A pleasure meeting you, and well, we'll be following you and spreading the word about you. Because I think anybody that comes into your sphere is going to be blessed. Plain and simple. Your positivity, your love, and your kindness. You're going to leave this world a better place than you found it. You know that, right?
Well, he is leaving it
That's
that
the
way.
goal, right? And I
That's
appreciate
always
that
a goal.
I appreciate both of you are doing the same. And so it's nice to connect and rub shoulders with those that have that as their promise to the world.
Thank you.
I have to throw out just one more thing to our audience. Chances are by next week it'll already be sold out because we record these a week in advance. And our audience knows that. Chances are by next week this will be sold out. But Jason has a live show at the for those of our audience that are in Utah, the Hell Center Theater in Sandy, Utah, August 3rd, no, July 25th through August 3rd. He's performing, and he's got 2 days, the 26th of July and the 2nd of August, that still have openings. All the rest are sold out. They sold out within hours of the time that it was announced. But if you get a chance, you can see Jason live, and he's going to be doing some amazing imitations of Elton John, Billy Joel, and other singers. And Jason is amazingly talented that way. So go enjoy him. Thanks so much to our audience. Thanks to everyone for joining us today. Have a wonderful week. And remember, with kindness,
With kindness, everybody wins.